So many things have ruined my childhood, so I go online to bitch and cry. It feels like all of Hollywood is up against me. They even made Optimus fly. New versions of what I grew up with are being remade, rebooted and retried. My adolescence is under attack now. I think that a part of me has died. Aliens, Predators, Marvel, DC, maybe it doesn't all quite stick.
Okay, well, except maybe for that Jar Jar Binks.
Could it be I've misunderstood? This podcast ruined my childhood.
Hello and welcome to This Podcast Ruined My Childhood. I'm Phil Durasmo, and with me as always is Eric Walensky. Eric?
Hey, gang. Let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun with a third person. Let's have a little bit of a threesome. That doesn't sound right, but we're going to do it anyway. We have a very special guest with us this week. Once again, joining us for the second time is Brad Jost from the Jurassic Park Podcast. Brad, say hello to everybody out there.
What's going on, everybody? Things are off to a very interesting start already.
Yes,
I can't wait to see where this one goes.
We're going to genetically engineer a fourthsome, so it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it kind of makes my little opening quip take on a whole new meaning. Hold on to your butts.
Blue, stand down. Stand down. Hey! What did I just say? Delta, I see you. Back up. Okay. Good. Charlie, stay right there. Good. Close the gate. Are you crazy? Hey, just trust me. Close the gate.
Listen, Buffy.
Yeah.
You're the new guy, right?
Yeah.
You ever wonder why there was a job opening? Hey, don't ever turn your back to the cage.
Well, folks, now that you've heard that Brad is with us, I hope once again you understand that we are focusing on the Jurassic franchise. This week, we're going to be talking about Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So, the last time we all met and did one of these, Brad, we talked about Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3, and two of those three movies you didn't actually remember seeing in theaters. But I'm going to guess that you do remember seeing Jurassic World in theaters.
It's actually a really weird story. I have no recollection. No, I'm kidding. No, I definitely do remember seeing Jurassic World in theaters. And it was actually a really interesting time because, so this is 2015, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I had to go all the way up to Pennsylvania because I was getting married that weekend. And, we kind of went to go stay at this farmhouse where we were having the wedding and everything. And I found a movie theater that was out in that Pennsylvania area. And I'm like, all right, who can we get? Can we get, because some of our wedding party was already up there and everything for the weekend. And we went, I think it was like a Thursday night or something. So we all went out together to go see Jurassic World. And by that point, I was podcasting about the film, or the series as a whole. And I couldn't even let it go during like my wedding weekend. I'm like, I got to record. I got to like bring cause I think I was using just like my phone at that time. And I'm like, I'm recording us going to the theater. I'm sitting in the theater. Of course, like I maybe mentioned it last time that like my cousin was really into it as well. And like, I kind of coaxed him into being like a co-host with me at the start of the podcast, and he hasn't been on it in a long time since. But we're both sitting in the theater, kind of like talking about it and getting pumped and ready. And And yeah, the movie blew me away. I thought it was pretty awesome. I loved the thing, and there were moments of terror and joy and fear and stuff like that. I remember specifically the T-Rex moment, right in the Main Street fight with the Indominus Rex and the T-Rex in blue, and I I was sitting there like in fear because I thought that the T-Rex that I knew and loved from my childhood was about to die.
Mhm.
And we talked about this with Jurassic Park 3, and I mentioned like, oh, I didn't know why anybody cared about the Spinosaurus, killing a T-Rex, because it wasn't any T-Rex we all cared about. But in Jurassic World, this T-Rex is the same T-Rex from the first movie, so I did care about it, and I was horrified that it almost died, and it didn't.
Yep.
Luckily, so all was good, and I absolutely love the movie. I think it's great, and yeah, I know it has its issues, and it's definitely a popcorn flick at times, but I love it. I think it's a lot of fun.
Very nice. Eric?
Well, yes, I had very vivid memories of seeing the first Jurassic Park and the second Jurassic Park. And then it's funny because I don't really remember seeing the third one in the theaters. And that's funny. It's a complete reversal of you, Brad. But it's not that I don't remember it. It's just that I went to the movie theater at City Walk in Orlando, and it was just a going to a movie experience. There was nothing extraordinary or exciting, except that I had just moved to Florida and I was seeing the movie after having ridden the ride. So that was a pretty cool thing. But overall, the actual experience was I went and saw the movie and walked away and was like, yeah, it's Jurassic Park. I love it. Put a dinosaur on a movie screen and I'm going to hand you $20. That's all there is to it. So with Jurassic World, same kind of experience. You had me at hello. I was in as soon as the movie came out, and it was just a day at the movies, and ultimately I liked it. I couldn't rave about it though, and we can get into that in a little bit. I just I kind of felt like the trailer gave me too much. And not even like peeks at the dinosaurs necessarily, because at this point, if you haven't seen a Jurassic Park movie being an adult, this is not probably going to be your first film you're going to see. You've probably already seen the other ones. As a kid, this might be your first film. So I don't think they need to really tip their hand and show you too much with dinosaurs. You know basically what you're going to get there. But I just felt like I saw too much of Chris Pratt's character. So too many of the lines were already, I'd seen it like 100 times. And I just saw too much of Bryce Dallas Howard already. So when I was watching the movie, trying to get into the characters, because like I said, you already know what the dinosaurs are about, I found myself being just slightly detached from them till almost the final action sequence, and then I kind of started caring more. But up till then, I wasn't disappointed. I just was not blown away.
Interesting. So I went to see this Jurassic World with a couple friends up in LA and saw it at the big theater at Hollywood and Highlands, which is a pretty well-known movie theater up there. It's right next to the Chinese theater. And it was one of the best movie experiences I've had in Southern California. I saw it with a good friend from Real Fans for Real Movies group, Andy DiGenova, and a couple other friends, Mark Gottlieb, Diane Osgood, and it completely blew me away. So I have a picture that I'm looking at right now from that I took on and posted on Facebook. That I had a Fitbit at the time, and I'm wearing my Fitbit, and it's a picture of my heartbeat on the Fitbit in the movie theater. And it was 102, and my resting heart rate is 78. That's what the movie was doing to me in the theater. And I don't remember what scene this was. I don't remember what part of the movie it was, but I had to take my phone out and take a picture because my heartbeat was just going crazy. So needless to say, Jurassic World was my most anticipated movie of 2015, and it did not disappoint. I loved almost every moment of it, and we'll talk about the almost a little later, but I thought it was the perfect entrance to this franchise. And in my mind, it's the second best movie in the franchise up to that point. So I don't know if those are bold words talking to both of you, but I'm putting it down.
I don't think it's too bold. I think it's I've heard a lot of people say that exact same thing. And honestly, it created this entire huge fandom now. The fandom was one thing before, but now it's massive. And for the people that saw this at the right time in their lives, this movie, even people that are, a bit younger than us too, it was their Jurassic Park or their Star Wars. And sometimes it's hard to tell from our perspective, because we had all those other movies, but it's huge for a lot of people. And I can see why, and I love it. And, like Eric's saying, I didn't necessarily connect with a lot of the characters the same way I did with the originals, but over time I've certainly grown to love them quite a bit and everything. But sure, the movie has its faults here and there, but I think it's done something that we never could have expected. And I honestly don't think Universal even thought this would happen.
No,
And
they sure didn't.
if you look at the the theme parks and stuff like that, it's like, oh, did they even care that, or think about how big this movie would have been back then? It seems like no. They just had no faith in it.
Right.
It's weird. They've kind of honestly continued that trend a little bit. It's not like they do give it a lot of love, but it's something that feels like Jurassic is one of the biggest franchises of all time, and it's up there with Star Wars and the MCU and stuff like that, as far as box office is concerned. But it still doesn't necessarily get all that love, and the fandom is awesome, and I think everybody is really, really cool, and it's built this entire new life for me and this lifestyle and everything. So it's done amazing things, and and I most of that is not even related to the movie, but it's just it's so special to me.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah, I want to take a second and reverse something I said. I said it was the most anticipated film of 2015. It was the second most for me. Yeah, Star Wars: The Force Awakens was number one. That's
it was
right.
A big movie year, yeah.
It was a big movie year. Age of Ultron was number 3 behind Jurassic World, and that really, really disappointed. So, Force Awakens, though, I think I just think of it as 2016 because it was in 2 weeks before the end of December, but it's really
it was right around Christmas there. Yeah.
So
yeah,
but yeah, that was number
held
one.
On pretty well.
It sure did. It had a long run. It made a lot of money. And you're right to talk about how the theme parks didn't embrace it, because Universal didn't modify their Jurassic Park attraction, the River Adventure, until just last year, right? Or maybe 2018, but at least in California until 2019.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really done all that much until that, until the Hollywood stuff was updated. And, in Orlando, it's just like, hey, let's throw some banners up and just kind of make it look a little bit like Jurassic World. And, we've all questioned it because, right around that time, it's like, well, we're going to put in a Kong attraction right here in the middle of Islands of Adventure in an odd place, kind of dismissing the cohesive theme of different lands and all this stuff. And let's just throw it there right in Jurassic. And it's like, if they had a little faith and hope, and, after talking about Jurassic Park 3 and, seeing that the box office was going down and down and down, it was still producing, but it wasn't what it was. So they just didn't think it was going to be the powerhouse and be the biggest movie of nearly the year at that point. One of the biggest of all time. And it did that. And unfortunately, they put Kong there. I love Kong, like the Reign of Kong. I think that's an amazing attraction. I love it. But I wish it was somewhere else, because that should have been like a Jurassic update right there if they had some faith. But unfortunately, they didn't at the time.
Yep. The thing that Jurassic World gave us that I think fans, like real fans of Jurassic Park franchise, had wanted for so long was to see the park. We had glimpses of the park in Jurassic Park, and then we were on a separate island for 2 and 3. And Jurassic World brought us back to the original island with John Hammond's legacy and the T-Rex, like you already mentioned, that we knew, and with some set pieces that brought that nostalgia, that childhood loving nostalgia out when the 2 kids are in the visitor center. And it just, there's the Jeep that they take. That's the Jeep from the first movie. It's just so much of that childhood loving nostalgia is in the film, and all the things that you wanted to see from an operating Jurassic Park is in Jurassic World. When the monorail goes through the gate, it just, like, in the first 8 minutes of the movie, my heart just beats out of its chest, as we already talked about, to 102 beats per minute.
And it's a way cooler park even than the other glimpse that we get to see, which is in the Lost World of the San Diego park that they were going to build on the mainland. That was pretty lackluster. Even the models that they show in the Lost World weren't very exciting. But as soon as the kids get on that monorail and go to Jurassic World, that, yes, was just mind-blowing how awesome it was.
I wanted to spend more time in the park. I wish they had done shorts where they just followed around some guests in the park for a day, and it could be like 5-minute shorts of them riding the baby Triceratops and 5-minute shorts of them feeding little baby Brachiosaurs and like riding the gyrosphere. I just wish we could have had more time in the park.
Yeah, and that's something I wish as well, because we watched that movie and you see that moment, and this is very different from The Lost World. I know we talked about how that movie is very slowly paced getting to the island, but this movie is like quick. It's there. You're pretty much on the island in the first 5 minutes, it seems like. And just that moment where you hear this Jurassic Park music swell and the doors open on the hotel room and the camera just flies across the lagoon, and you get this glimpse of what a truly operating Jurassic Park is, would have been. And it's amazing to see that all. And you do see all these glimpses of hotels and different sections of the park, and there's a water park in one area, and there's so much stuff that you just don't see. And it is disappointing on that level, because they focus on such a small amount of the actual park. You basically stick to Main Street and a few other little paddocks here and there.
Yep.
So you don't really get a huge sense of the island. And even in the sequel, you don't get a huge sense of that outside of those areas. But good thing is we do have Camp Cretaceous coming for Netflix. And, it's an animated series, but, it ties in, and it's supposed to, I guess, be canon. So you will get a glimpse at a lot of those extra, parts of the park. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah, I'll be watching that with my daughter for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up to the quickness to which they just get to it, which is like we said about the Lost World in that podcast, where there is a lot of time at the beginning before you actually get to the island. And I think that's the balance that these Jurassic Park movies need to walk, because like I said, at this point, you already know the dinosaurs. You know what you're getting there. You're ready for some great dinosaur action. But I think unless you really connect and care about the characters that are being terrorized and or saving the day, the movie, I think that's what kind of makes it a success or a failure ultimately, because you'll never beat that initial connection of Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm and Ellie Sattler and all of them from the first one. Then the second one, you got to kind of meet the team again, and that's where I think it kind of slows down. Third one, again, the action is pretty much immediate, because you're already like, Alan Grant, this time he's got a buddy, and then he's with these people who are clearly not who they say they are, but we'll find that out later. And then with this one, I don't know. I didn't connect with the characters right away. For as cool as that park looked and everything about that, we're finally getting to see the Jurassic Park, I felt like it wasn't, it kind of lacked some of the fun of Jurassic Park, like when you meet Alan Grant and on site, and he's kind of playful yet serious with the little boy, and you find out who Alan is in that moment. And I just think with Chris Pratt's character, and maybe it's because like I said, I'd seen it a million times on TV, hearing him do, animal instincts, they hunt, they eat, they mate. I'm like, oh, I already heard this. Give me something fresh. And then I just didn't really, really get it.
It's funny that you bring that up, though, because I rewatched Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom today to be ready for this. And Jurassic World, Brad was right. We get to the island right away. It's within the first 7 minutes that they're on the boat going to the island. But then we don't meet Claire for another 4 minutes. So at the 11-minute mark, we meet Claire. and she's one of our main characters. And then she talks to Mizrani, and then we go see the Indominus cage. We don't get to Chris Pratt's character for probably 20-ish, 25 minutes. And that's a really long time to get to your male lead in a movie like this. I definitely see how you're saying the connection is lacking. But you're right, 25 minutes. It's about 20 to 25 minutes in before we meet him.
And I think that's why I didn't feel that connection, is because I spent too much time with the kids and Claire. And, the kids right away, I didn't care that their parents were getting divorced. That didn't add anything to the film to me. And then they get put, I think it would have just been more interesting if they would have just really played up how exciting their aunt is, but then she turns out to be this dud. But even that just doesn't quite make sense, because I think they already know what they're getting with their Aunt Claire, who works with the dinosaurs. I don't know. I think they just could have done that whole beginning a little differently, and I just couldn't connect. And then when you finally get to meet Chris Pratt, it just was like, okay, I'm already not bored. Bored isn't the right word, but what were your thoughts on that, Brad? How did you feel?
Well,
What was your connection?
I think I connected pretty well. Maybe it has to do with back in probably around 2000, 2001, around the time when I was dissatisfied with Jurassic Park 3. My sister was actually in an off-Broadway play with Bryce Dallas Howard. So I had this kind of connection where I was like, oh, like this is awesome. Like somebody that I said hi to, and I kind of like met offhand, through my sister's Broadway play. I mean, she was only like 8 or something at that time, but Bryce, around-ish the same age. So it was like, it felt really cool to have somebody you've seen before be a part of this franchise. And I will say about the whole family structure and everything, it plays such a major role in every movie that is, outside of the dinosaurs, these are really movies about families and connections and relationships and stuff. You talk about Grant and Ellie and the whole kid dynamic and, trying to build a family. And then The Lost World is an interesting one with Kelly Malcolm and Ian Malcolm. And then also the fact that the T-Rex family, they're trying to get back to their child. Even Jurassic Park 3, I mean, you talk about Allie and Ellen. Did I say that right? Alan and Ellie. I think I said it all backwards. Yeah. Them breaking up, and then the raptors trying to get back to their eggs and stuff. And then Jurassic World, it introduces, a new family and a new dynamic. And you mentioned the divorce thing. And a lot of people have put so much weight on that. And I know I don't really put a ton of weight on that, just because if you go back to Jurassic Park, there is a throwaway line that like, oh, we're investing all this money and Hammond can't even bother to see me when Donald Gennaro goes to the Dominican Republic to see the amber mine. And he's like, well, Hammond had to leave early. His daughter's getting a divorce. And that's it. That's all you know about that. Yep. So it's a throwaway line as well. And it just, then all of a sudden the kids show up to the island by themselves. It's the same exact scenario. The kids are there as a distraction to get them away from the divorce settlement. And that's exactly what happens in this movie too. It's like, let's get the kids out of here. We have to handle this. We have to take care of stuff. And I don't put as much weight on it,
What you're saying is that Colin Trevorrow pulled a J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, look, 2015 was heavy on nostalgia, right? I mean, it was all about throwing it back and trying to be the past, and trying to make you remember things and feel things.
It just felt bulky to throw that in there. I get the connection, and of course with the family, and you didn't mention too, even in 3, the whole reason that movie happens is because it's 2 parents looking for their child that they lost. So true. Again, the family connection. You're right.
I really try to forget about the Kirbys,
Yep.
But you're right. The family element, it's huge. It's just, I don't know if you need an excuse to send your kids to a dinosaur island, though. I don't think you have to say, because we're getting a divorce, go to the island, distract yourself. I think you can just say, guess what, kids, your aunt works for the park and you're going. And I wouldn't sit there and question, well, why aren't the parents going?
I think it's about that struggle, because all of the other films are about relationship struggles. So if you just send them to the island, there's no struggle. It's all good, all fine. Unless that struggle is just singularly Claire learning to turn herself around, which I guess you could also say that too.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably where you're going with it, Eric. I don't really care one way or the other. And as someone who's been divorced, you do want to try to shield your child or children from it as much as possible. So I understand the parents wanting to send the kids away to, go and have fun on an island and get away from reality for a minute. But
Sure.
it is a heavy first, like 18 and a half minutes, 20 something minutes of the movie. They cram a lot of exposition in, and they don't always do it the best way. Some of it is a little clumsy, like Eric's bringing up, but I
Yeah.
personally feel connected to Owen, even though he comes pretty late in the picture, just because of the way he's introduced. I love the sequence of him being introduced with the raptors and him having to go into the cage and save the new guy, and all the raptors listen to him, and he kind of shows off his abilities and his connection with Blue, Echo, Delta, and Charlie. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting, the character of Owen, because this is really, and we talked about the family dynamic and everything, this is really Claire's movie from start to finish.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unfortunate that the marketing and everything else, like it's literally, let's plaster Chris Pratt's face on the toy boxes, on the DVD cover, the poster, the everything, every trailer. Like Eric said, it's like, well, we've seen it all. We know every line that Owen says and all that, because they treated him as if he was the lead of this movie. And yes, I mean, he's like the male lead, but like it's really Claire's movie, and that's why it's like you're supposed to connect with them. And maybe it's it's a failing on that, and it certainly is heavy handed with a lot of dialogue and stuff. Certainly, like later on, you're like, oh, Claire's talking about she doesn't want to have a family, does want to have. It's very confusing, all that stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if the marketing would have been done differently had Guardians of the Galaxy flopped, like a lot of people expected it to, because that's why they weighed so heavily on Chris Pratt's shoulders, because he had a breakout hit with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sure.
If the movie didn't do as well as it did, maybe we would have gotten more posters with the Indominus, or just the logo, or Bryce and Chris and the logo, rather than what we got, which was a ton of posters with the logo and then Pratt riding a motorcycle with a couple raptors around him.
Which is awesome. I do love him doing that.
Yeah, me too. So I think, we're praising a bit of this movie, but I just want to say once again how great it was to see more of this park and more of the attractions that they had. The gyrosphere is awesome. The mosasaur is awesome. The T-Rex paddock is awesome. Everything that they take you to that you get glimpses of is really, really cool. And it's exactly what I and the child inside me wanted from an original Jurassic Park movie. I wanted to be on the island. I wanted to see the park in operation, and now I'm getting it, and it is just eye candy.
Yeah.
We can move ahead 3 years and start talking about the next film in the franchise. So Colin Trevorrow wrote the script with another person, but handed over the directing duties to J.A. Bayona. And J.A. is known more for horror than for action. And I think that was a pretty smart choice, because the movie plays, especially the last third, the last act of the movie, is more of a horror film, in my opinion, than a Jurassic Park movie. I don't know if either of you agree with that.
Totally agree.
He knows, J.A. knows how to make a scary movie, and the sequence in the house, as much as it doesn't feel like a Jurassic Park film, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes, it does feel like a horror film, and horror is one of my favorite types of genre, so I am all in.
Well, if we're going to dive into it, yeah, I didn't care for the house sequence.
Well, what are your thoughts on the film as a whole?
Again, Fallen Kingdom, the first half was interesting enough to me, but the second half, being on the mainland again, that's where I start to lose the awe and the mystique of the dinosaur island, and now they're just here with us. It's like, you're out in outer space, and now we're going to finish the movie on Earth. It's like, yeah, but this stuff takes place out in space where it's fantasy and you're having fun in this special place. and now you're just in California. That's
Let me
sort
tell
of a
you about a little film
letdown.
called Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and this is where, though, they're just forced to kind of go with what's already been set up. The same way Phil and I have talked about the Star Wars movies. The blueprint is
Mhm.
laid out, and you kind of have to now follow along. So, in that respect, Dominion, now that I'm braced for dinosaurs in the real world, or our world, as it were, I'll be able to handle that. I hope. But considering they're bringing back most of the original cast, I think I'll be able to handle that quite well, actually.
hmm
So yeah, I didn't mind. A lot of people had problems with the whole physics of a volcano exploding and what that would really do to you, and how hot ash is coming out of a volcano, and you couldn't just run through it, and none of that bothered me, because again, if you believe that they already
Yes.
got blood out of a mosquito, then you should have turned the movie off right there if you can't get
Right.
past that. So
Thank
I'm
you.
Yep.
I'm fine. I'm fine with everything else, and I guess that's why largely I'm mostly critical of the story elements and the character elements, rather than things like that. Like, hey, Chris Pratt, run through a volcano storm. Do it, man. You're the hero. I don't care. But then but then you're gonna tell me the parents are divorced and the aunt's a pain in the butt. Oh, that's too much. These kids have had a terrible childhood. Just pick one or the other.
Oh
I
gosh.
I don't need both.
I had a problem. So when I saw Fallen Kingdom, I didn't love it out of the gate. I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting take on the franchise that is taking it in a completely different direction, but I didn't think it was a Jurassic Park movie. It didn't feel like a Jurassic Park movie. It
I
felt
agree.
like a it felt like a slight horror movie that had dinosaurs in it rather than a Jurassic Park movie. If that makes any sense.
Oh, totally. That's why, like I said, the part on the island at the beginning felt Jurassic Park-ish,
Mhm.
but then that whole second half, it just takes you out of it somehow. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
even that though, I one of the big criticisms I had when I first saw the movie was that they didn't spend enough time on the island. And I understand why it took so long to get there, because they did have to set it all up for us to get to the island. And then why they were only on the island for about 30 minutes, because the pacing of the movie needed to get them back to the house. And I completely get it. And now I can watch the movie and appreciate it in a very different way. But when I went into the film, I wasn't ready for it. When I saw it the first time in theaters, I wasn't ready for that. And so I walked out of the theater thinking that wasn't what I paid for. That wasn't Jurassic Park to me. And so, like I said, now I've come to terms with it, but it's very jarring for it to be Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and not feel like Jurassic World.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I know a lot of people have that same issue and struggle with it. When I saw this one, yeah, I mean, honestly, it was not a Jurassic Park 3 experience for me. It was different. What I saw, I actually really loved. I really liked what I saw. The problem was I already saw it. Like Eric was saying about Jurassic World, this one took it to a completely different level and showed you literally everything, like a
Mhm.
scene from every point in the film,
Yeah.
and every like dynamic moment where something would have changed, or I don't know, just like there were so many moments where I thought, oh, maybe they're going to trick us here or something. But no, they literally showed you how it was. It was not a trick in the trailer or anything. It was like 100% the way it was. And I'm in a weird position where I podcast about this stuff every week, so I'm already theorizing constantly, right? So
Mhm.
people will call in, or I'll have discussions with people about what the movie is. So in a way, we kind of figure out a lot of stuff ahead of time. Plus, I tend to like hear a lot of things and know a lot of things offhand, about the production and about the story beforehand. So when I went to go see that, it was a press screening in New York. It was incredible. It was actually this like I forget, it was like AMC in New York, huge IMAX screen. We got like goodie bags and stuff, had to put our phones in like Ziplocs and all that good stuff. And I was just so excited. I thought it was, such an awesome moment to be able to see this movie. And it was weird because this movie came out, it came out 2 weeks early in the UK. And I don't know why they do that. They release movies weeks ahead in some places, and usually it's the other way around. We get movies early and they don't.
Right.
But this time around, they were getting it 2 weeks early. But luckily, I got that press screening the same day I think that it was released in the UK, or right around there. So I actually ended up seeing it like either a little bit earlier than them, and I was like, oh, that was a huge weight off my chest, and I certainly felt bad for everybody else in the US that still had to wait the extra 2 weeks. But man, I really hope they don't do that again. But
I think, Brad, the reason they actually did that, England's parents were getting a divorce. So they were like, guess what, guys? You get to see the movie 2 weeks early. Take your mind off of it. And England was like, oh, cool. Thanks, guys. So
nice.
You're right.
That's why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really traumatizing time for the UK. I feel sorry for them, but just give them one little slice of goodness. Yeah,
it's funny because you say that, but is that when Brexit happened? That's just
it could have been
fairly close. Yeah,
that was it.
I think that was 2016 though, but still, that's funny.
It was just such an odd time though, because like I felt like I saw the entire movie, and when the thing was done, like I said, I was impressed and kind of loved everything that I saw and shocked by a lot of it. It hurt me in a way where I was like, man, I really wish Universal wouldn't do this. And they have a problem. Universal has a serious issue with their trailers, and they do this with a lot of their movies, like the Fast and Furious franchise does the exact same thing. It's like, well, let's just show you the whole thing.
It's like they feel like they need to hook you with all the titular scenes, and everything that is so action packed. They think this is what's going to get people in the seats, but then you see everything that's action packed. So,
well, see that actually where this is maybe where life imitates art. So in Jurassic World, one of Chris Pratt's quotes after they genetically make the what was the name of the dinosaur in Jurassic World?
Indominus Rex.
The Indominus. Jeez, blanking here. He says, "It's already dinosaurs. Wow, enough."
Yeah.
Right? That's his line. So now in Fallen Kingdom, it's almost like, again, life imitates art. They tried to go bigger and crazier, and what can we do to really get people engaged in this? And you should have already just said it's already dinosaurs. Wow, enough. But instead they build this whole underground dinosaur auction because there's a weapon where you can point a gun at somebody and a dinosaur will kill them. And it's already been made fun of. This isn't my original observation here, even though I did think it in the movie, which was, you've already got a gun. Why do you need the dinosaur? If I've got to point a gun at somebody and then wait for a dinosaur to attack them, I've already kind of got the guy in my scopes. I don't know why I can't. And so I think that's where the movie tried to go, like, look what you could do with a dinosaur, attack dinosaurs. And I think that was kind of a swing and a miss a little bit when you step back and really think of it.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's something that was set up in Jurassic World. Like, they have that conversation with Owen and Vic Hoskins, Vincent D'Onofrio in that movie. He, talked about trying to spare lives and, not put boots on the ground. So instead you send the dinosaurs in to eat the bad guys, belt buckle and all. And yeah, I mean, it's a strange theory for sure, but it's honestly not that off, from historically speaking, kind of humans have been doing that for years, putting animals into these situations, big ones, small ones. Even today, we still put dogs into situations to go figure out things ahead of us. And I think that's kind of what they were leaning on. And, having them get the bad guys before they actually get in there and take out what they need to take out. But it's kind of clunky, but I get what they're trying to do.
And it's what we would do. If honestly, if this really happened in real life, if they cloned dinosaurs, someone in the government would say, how do we weaponize them? And that's just the way it is. That's the way
For sure.
unfortunately, our country works right now.
And I totally get that. I get that we use animals in that way. It's just the fact that he's literally standing in the same room with the gun.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe there's you fly
drones
a
and stuff,
drone over the target, but you still have to get the dinosaur there. And it just seems like a really long way to go around. Like, how do you even transport that? You'd have to fly it in.
Mhm.
Humans would have to still fly it in, put it in the ground, keep it busy until you point the laser. And how close do you have to get the dinosaur to the laser to see the target? I mean, people are going to see a helicopter coming in with a T-Rex hanging out of the side. And it's like the T-Rex is going to be like, Alan, are we at the drop zone? I mean, and I might be picking this apart more than it needs to be. It's just those are the kind of things that, to again quote Chris Pratt, it's already dinosaurs enough. Wow, enough.
Mhm.
I'm already good with the concept, and I get that you're trying to do something fresh, but I think they just went a little too far.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't even think about that with the laser, because I think about it in the terms that the military is used now, where they use a lot of drones. And I was just thinking, oh, you just put dinosaurs on the ground and you keep letting it follow this laser that you're flying around with a drone, and then eventually you kill some bad guys. But the fact that they're auctioning them off to the highest bidder, I do like the line in there that B.D. Wong's character says, which is they'll make their own. Because I don't know if that's going to set up Dominion, or if that's, even just a throwaway line. But if you do give this technology, which is a lab-made genetically engineered dinosaur, another government's going to take it and pick it apart and figure out how to do it themselves.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, it's been set up. It's literally the first thing that happens in Jurassic Park is the setup of that movie. It's let's have this other company, which they actually don't name in Jurassic Park. It's named in the novel. And,
Right.
Dodgson, is part of Biosyn, and Biosyn will play a part in the future of the movies. That's their intention is to essentially crumble, or cripple Jurassic Park by doing their own thing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where all that implementation goes. Like, does it, because some people bought them, some people are going to use them as like tanks, like they say this Ankylosaurus is a tank essentially, and but who knows what the other the other dinosaurs are going to be used for. So I'm really interested to see. And then you have obviously all the ones that are out in the wild, but I really appreciate this movie for the risks that it tried to take. I don't put too much stock into the military stuff, because I'm more invested in the rest of the ongoing story. And for instance, like the huge risk that they took that we didn't even talk about yet is the fact that they introduce human cloning. And
you beat me to it, Brad. That was going to be my next thing. I was going to ask you about it. No, that's good. That's good. The big takeaway from this film isn't about the dinosaurs. It's about, what's her name? Maggie? Not Maggie.
Maisie.
Maisie. The big takeaway is Maisie, that she's a clone of her mother, and she is seemingly a perfect replica.
Well, actually, she's a clone of herself.
Well, that's true. That's true. Not her mother, right?
Yeah,
clone of herself.
So yeah, that's all kind of, again, another thing that's very confusing, and maybe we'll get some answers later on. But first off, they introduce like a partner to John Hammond, which you never heard about before. It's like, let's retcon it a little bit and just say that he had a partner that had a fallout with Hammond, and we don't know why or what it was. Well, I mean, I guess we can say that it was the cloning, probably.
Right.
But
they do mention that.
Yeah, but like, I like that they introduced this new family dynamic and family issues and all that cool stuff. And the cloning thing, it feels so Michael Crichton to me. Everything about this setup with the human cloning, it really feels like Michael Crichton. And sure, it's like this Crichton set inside of a monster movie, set inside of an action movie, like a Jason Bourne movie or something. Because like it's all over the place at the end for sure. But I just love that cloning aspect. It feels very Michael Crichton. And I mentioned Jason Bourne. I just got to say, I love how randomly in the auction sequence, Chris Pratt just becomes like either like a James Bond, a Jason Bourne, or Indiana Jones. It feels like an Indiana Jones moment because he's just
Yeah.
making it up as he goes along, just punching it. I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, it's not Jurassic whatsoever. Nothing about that is Jurassic. Nothing about the horror movie aspect is Jurassic, but it's cool. I don't care. I love it. I love how that changes it up. And honestly, like how many times can we just like go back to an island and do
Sure.
a thing and create a new park and all this stuff? So it's a risk they had to kind of take, and I give them some credit for doing so, because it's dramatic to like say, let's start cloning humans. Even though they kind of do allude to it in Jurassic Park. John Hammond's like, hello John, hello
Yeah.
John. He's cloning himself, so it's a nice little throwback.
Yeah. That's another thing you brought up that I had a problem with, that there was the silent partner, or not silent partner, but there was this partner that we've never heard about, that we're now focusing the movie around his family in this film. I did walk away out of the theater saying, what was that? Come on. All retcon. But like I said before, I've come to terms with a lot of this film, and I actually like it a lot better than when I left the theater after seeing it a couple times at home. And I will tell you, the most devastating sequence in any Jurassic film is when the Brachiosaur walks out onto the dock and the volcano has erupted, and the smoke and flames and everything are engulfing that Brachiosaur as it rears up and does its trumpet call, and it just falls down. It is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it was a really strong way to send off the island, so that we now know, we'll never go back there. No matter what happens with the franchise, no matter what happens in the Jurassic lore, we won't go back to that island in future films unless it's a prequel.
Yeah, it's so just, it's heart-wrenching. You're seeing that Brachiosaurus strike the same pose.
Mm-hmm.
You hear like a more melancholy version of the Jurassic Park theme underneath that moment, and it's just so brutal. I like nearly shed a tear every time.
Yep, me too.
Don't hate me, guys. I roll my eyes.
Oh.
There are no tears.
Oh, I feel it. Especially Giacchino's score in both Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom is awesome. He is
I agree with that.
He's the next John Williams in that. I think anytime Giacchino writes a score, I feel it the same way I feel John Williams scores, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, he has a sense about him to do like very similar stuff in a lot of his movies, where it's like one or two note motifs. Like there's a bit in actually like Rogue One. I forget what song it is in particular or what track, but right when like Jin Erso is like watching a video or a transmission of her father, and there's this like note motif under there, and it's just piano. And he brought that across to like several other movies, but like it's so effective, and I don't care how many times he uses it, but like it really tears me apart, and I love his work. And honestly, I think he nailed it with Jurassic World, and surprisingly, actually even introduced, because he did the score for the Lost World video game.
Yes, he did.
Back in 97. So he actually brought one of those motifs, it was a raptor motif, into Jurassic World, which was incredible to hear. And what he did, I think, in Fallen Kingdom was even better somehow than what he did. He was channeling, these horror movies of the past, and it really truly feels like a horror film score. Yeah. And it's so not Jurassic. It doesn't feel anything like a Jurassic score in certain instances, but it's so impressive and so brutal, so scary. And it really, it holds up against those, Frankenstein's, moments or whatever at the end with the Indoraptor. And it invokes so many different like universal monsters. There's moments of Dracula in there when it's like hanging down from the roof. There's moments of Frankenstein's monster there, just the way it's created and everything, the way it looks kind of mangled and everything. And of course, like the Wolfman, when it's on top of the roof, just like howling in the moonlight. It's so impressive. I love, there's almost no better shot in a Jurassic movie than that thing on top of the roof. It's straight up horror movie and doesn't necessarily feel Jurassic, but it's so iconic to me.
I agree 100%. And I I can go on for days talking about movie scores, so I won't get too deep into it. I will just say Giacchino is a chameleon and he can do anything. And so far, he hasn't done anything wrong, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see what comes with Dominion.
Yeah, me too.
So anything else we want to talk about for these films?
I don't really have any more points except to say that this was probably my Jurassic Park 3 Fallen Kingdom.
Got it.
This would be the last one. It's not a childhood ruiner. It just, as you guys were saying, as I've said, it's just such a departure that it just didn't strike a chord with me. I didn't really believe in the setup. I liked the island stuff, was cool, was great action, but I didn't buy into the underground dinosaur auction, and it just didn't grab me. I didn't even feel the same chemistry of Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard in this one as I did in the other one. Like, I kind of believed them at the end of the Jurassic World, and I thought, okay, if they keep making movies, I could get into this. But then I didn't like that we already had they dated off screen and then they broke up, and then now we're getting back together on screen and we're just watching them re-find each other again. And when we talk about any of these movies, anything being made now, there's just so much content out there in general. And I agree, because you said that they've got to do something different. How many times can they go to the island? I agree. I just don't know if this was the right direction, and what else is there to do beyond Dominion, which is coming out. Which, have you guys seen? I would imagine you've seen it, Brad. Battle at Big Rock?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you both seen it? Yeah. I just watched that recently when I was doing research for this. You talk about no better images in these movies. The image of the T-Rex against the fire roaring at the Triceratops in that, the visual on that I thought was incredible. So I'm really looking forward to what they're going to do with Dominion. Although and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Battle at Big Rock is a 8-minute short. You can find it on YouTube, and it's a little mini story that takes place after the dinosaurs have been let loose in the United States, and a bunch of people decide to go camping with dinosaurs in the woods. So you can guess what happens from there.
Yep. It was
Yeah,
really
it's
well
kinda-
done. I liked it a lot.
Super well done. I really liked it.
It's
Yes.
Trevorrow wrote it, directed it. I mean, he got a good cast for it. He did it all.
Yeah, looked great.
Yeah, and that gets me excited for, him doing the next film too, because I feel like with Jurassic World, it was almost like an impossible situation, right? Like, he had to reinvigorate a franchise after Jurassic Park 3 that was pretty much dead. Like, there was no hope for this franchise, and that's why Universal had no faith in it, because it's been 14 years since the last one, and he had to reinvigorate the entire thing. So it had to have a certain look and style. It's very shiny and polished, very action heavy, all that stuff. It kind of lost the conversational moments of the original 3, where there's no score. It's just people talking, like the lunch scene in Jurassic Park, or like Hammond's mansion in The Lost World. Like, those moments are kind of gone, and that's just an expression across all of film today. It's kind of,
the quiet moments aren't quiet anymore. Yeah,
sure, but he had to do an impossible task to reinvigorate this franchise, and I think he said it before that the movie he wanted to make was this third one. Sure, it kind of sounds like director speak, like, trying to get people hyped, but I think it's true, because I think he wanted to make whatever this movie is. And I think that shows with Battle at Big Rock, is he nailed that short. And, that's actually a slight correction. Hate to be that guy, but it's a Allosaurus and a Nasutoceratops. So the Allosaurus is one that we do see in Fallen Kingdom. Now, this is now an adult, so it looks completely different than the Allosaurus you saw in Fallen Kingdom. And then the Nasutoceratops is an animal that we've never seen in any of the movies. So I don't know what's going on there. I guess, like, they just didn't show it. That I hate that. I kind of hate that explanation of, like, well, we didn't point the camera at all the dinosaurs that were in the ship that were being taken off the island. So that always bugs me. But
Well, I'm not a
somehow it's there.
paleontologist. I'm just doing my best.
Yeah, look, I am the worst as far as like Jurassic fans are concerned. My dinosaur knowledge is so minimal that I feel like I'm such a novice compared to so many other fans. So, but after watching them so many times, yeah, I can't help with the ones that are actually in the films. But man, that short was really incredible, and actually some of the best stuff was the footage afterwards, which is not really necessarily stuff he even
Yes.
shot. It was just
Yeah.
like there's actually literally like those are videos from people. Like that
Mhm.
one with the little girl getting chased by compies was
Yeah.
actually a
Mhm.
little girl getting chased by chickens or something, or like a duck or something. I forget what it was. So it's incredible to see like that they're going to do this. But yeah, it is kind of silly. Like apparently it takes place a year after I think the Fallen Kingdom. So it's kind of weird how like all this stuff has been going on in the woods and it's still like hush hush and people don't really know about what's going on. Because like in the beginning of that short, they're like, "Did you hear about what happened up north?" And you don't know what that means.
Right.
And it's like, nobody really understands that there's dinosaurs out there.
Well,
Well, but
But
they
there
also
they are.
say though the when they see the dinosaurs, the woman says the ranger told us to just be quiet. And
Yeah.
I'm like, so wait a minute, you knew there might be dinosaurs in the
It's
area and
so
you went
confusing.
camping?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's just the way like life is going to be. It's kind of like us right now with the coronavirus. It's like, well, we just kind of have to live with it, right?
Sure, sure.
I think that's the idea that
Right.
they're kind of floating is like they're not going to be these terrors that stomp around our cities. They're just going to be the monsters, in our closet or under our bed. Like that's what they're going to be.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Well, there can't be
But
that many of them either. So it's
no.
it's kind of interesting how they're gonna what angle they're gonna come at this, because maybe 30 to 40 dinosaurs got out, and if you think over the course of a year the military or somebody couldn't wrangle 30 to 40 of them, it seems
Yeah,
kind
Yeah,
of
right?
odd. Especially you just go call everybody that used to work at Jurassic World and be like, all right, animal wranglers, come on and help us find the
Yeah.
dinosaurs. Something that I don't think I ever saw before, or just I just don't remember it, but there's a post-credits scene at the end of Fallen Kingdom where two pterodons are landing on the Paris in Vegas on the Eiffel Tower. And
Mhm.
so that's another thing about Battle at Big Rock. If people don't know there are dinosaurs anywhere, how many hundreds of thousands of people are in Vegas that would take a picture of that and post it online,
The thing about this new series is it's not Star Wars. And Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Disney really blessed the fans by erasing everything and starting fresh, outside of the films and the Clone Wars. They erased everything. They got rid of it and they made it kind of clean and cohesive. And then from there on out, they have a story group that helps out with to wrangle the story, make sure they're not treading on each other and, making a mess of it. They do sometimes, but it's not too bad. But with this new franchise, it's kind of a mess. And it's honestly because the original series was a mess. Like there was no cohesion between
Right.
those first three movies. They're three separate tales
Yeah.
that really, outside of a few characters, don't really tread on each other all that much. So they really are three separate stories. So now they're like, well, let's make three more movies here and try to make a cohesive universe.
Real
And it
trilogy.
just doesn't really, it just doesn't really work all that much. And like all these little things, like you're talking about the pteranodons and like when do things take place? I have no clue. It's all so confusing. That is a big struggle, I think, for a lot of Jurassic fans these days is the canon. And then you have Colin Trevorrow, who likes to coin the term soft canon, which is not a thing. It's either canon or not. Like there's no in between. Like
Right.
you
It
don't have it
can't
in
be.
between. You can pull
Soft
pull
cannon.
things from things that are not canon. Like if it's the video game. There's a video game from Telltale called Jurassic Park the game, and there's things in that video game that have now been dismissed because of what happened in Jurassic World. In the video game, the visitor center from the original movie was smashed apart by a T-Rex, and when you go to Jurassic World, that obviously isn't the case, right?
Right.
So that's
It's
not
smashed
canon.
apart by Indominus.
Yeah, exactly. So Colin likes to say that it's soft canon, which is just a very, very confusing thing for people. and I don't agree with soft canon, but it's just this weird dynamic where we don't really know what the full through line is with all these movies, and I'm not even I'm going to tempt you guys to go. And I don't know if you've done it already, but there are motion comics. I don't know if you've seen these, but these are for uh, Jurassic World. They're kind of like a setup to Battle at Big Rock, but they came out way after Battle at Big Rock, and they're just slightly animated comics that are just, on YouTube, and there's maybe 4 of them, I think, and it just ends abruptly, and they're not very well done, I gotta say. And they just make everything even more confusing.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm definitely going to check those
it's
out.
very frustrating. So the thing that like kind of ruins things for me these days is the fact that I have to continually like battle with this canon that nearly doesn't exist. And at the end of the day, I kind of just say to myself, it doesn't matter. There is no canon. Like it's just a mess as it is. So, take it for what it is and don't get too bogged down in all the messy details. Like the Pteranodon, like honestly, the Pteranodons in the end of the Lost World are flying around free,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
But then in Jurassic Park 3, they're in a cage, and then we make a point to show that they're out of the cage again, flying somewhere.
Yeah.
So none of this makes any sense,
Nope.
right? So it's all very confusing. So that's a big struggle for me these days.
All right. So, with that being said, did it ruin your childhood?
No. Look, and I said I had struggles with Fallen Kingdom, but I love that movie so much, and it's probably my third favorite one
Mhm.
at this point. I love both aspects. I love the fact that it takes a drastic turn. It's an action movie in the first half, and then it's a horror movie in the second half. I love that dynamic, and obviously I love Jurassic World. So none of those two things ruined anything for me. And if anything, they just made everything better for me. It created a fandom that would never have existed otherwise. We all kind of, we're doing our own thing and talking with some fans, but it wasn't really a huge fandom. And I've been able to do things that I never would have been able to do, like, get samples from Mattel or speak with creators or, actors or whoever, and get a chance to be invited to go see Jurassic World live tour, which is, should have been a canon material, but for some
But
reason
is not.
Colin's like, it's soft canon. So, to get to the chance to do things like that, to be invited to Toy Fair, it's really astonishing. And I just love the fact that this franchise exists still, and it's continuing, and apparently has no end in sight. So I guess I'm going to be podcasting for a very long time. So yeah, I got a lot ahead of me.
Well, we're lucky for that. We're very lucky for that. Eric, did Fallen Kingdom or Jurassic World ruin your childhood?
No, they come very far from being childhood ruiners. Just like I said, you put dinosaurs on the big screen. I'm going to pay you to let me in so I can watch it. I just love this stuff. I eat it up. I can't really get on board with this last one, Fallen Kingdom. If I'm going to rank them, the original goes first, and then Jurassic World and Lost World, depending on my mood, will swing between 2 and 3. Sometimes I'll say Lost World's second favorite, sometimes it's third favorite, and then 3, and then this last one. But despite all of that, I cannot say it ruined my childhood.
That's good to hear. Same with me. These movies just enhance my childhood. I have talked in the past about how Jurassic Park was very formative in my teen years, and Jurassic World really brought a lot of those feelings back. I truly do think Jurassic World is the second best film in the franchise, and I don't think I would be going too far out on a limb to say that Fallen Kingdom might actually rank number 3 for me, just barely ahead of The Lost World. And I think the same kind of things you said, Brad, about the first half being action, the second half being horror. Horror is such a big part of my movie fandom that the fact that I got a Jurassic Park movie that's so different than anything we've had before and feels like a horror movie just kind of catapults it a little bit higher. So they didn't ruin my childhood, and they've only enhanced it and made me even more of a fervent fan, waiting for I guess the finale in this next trilogy, and we'll see what happens after that. So, Brad, I want to thank you again for joining us, but can you share where other people can find you outside of this podcast?
Sure. You can follow us on Twitter at Jurassic Park Pod and myself at Brad Jost. Certainly go to our website, JurassicParkPodcast.com. Everything's there. You can find all of our links to the podcast, wherever it is, our YouTube channel and everything. We have so much content on there. So definitely go check it out. We're new stuff just constantly spitting out every week, every day sometimes. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, we're busy over here. So come check us out.
Thank you. Eric?
You can find me on my other podcast, Everything, Anything, and Nothing Really, available on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, wherever fine podcasts are sold.
And for me, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at Fildimo, Fildimo. And you can also hear my musings on other podcasts in the Real Fans for Real Movies network, Real Fans for Real Movies, Holy Batcast, the All Batman podcast, Disorder, every Disney film, and I have also been on Brad's other podcast, Grim Grinning Hosts, about theme parks.
That's a good one.
So I want to thank you all for listening in with Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and we hope this didn't ruin your childhood.
Could it be I've misunderstood? This podcast ruined my childhood.